Our leader for our Toastmaster for tonight is Mary Morrison, Distinguished Toastmaster. And Mary, tell us what we're going to be doing tonight.
I'm so excited. I think we're going to be getting a lot of tips and tricks for humor and storytelling. I have an extra paper here in front of me, ready to take notes. I encourage everyone else to do the same thing because we have 6 speakers tonight, each sharing something that they have learned or techniques they have used in humor and or storytelling. And we have a chance for all of us to reinforce what tips we might want to incorporate into our own speaking by having a little section of the meeting called takeaways. So we'll have a chance to share at the end of the meeting what you've heard. Let's get going on the agenda. I've double checked, and all of our people who are participating with a role tonight are present. Woohoo! That's always a good thing to not have to clean all that up at the beginning of the meeting. Let's start with our president. You've just heard from him. He has an uncanny way of doing elections. Nicely done, Phil. Let me introduce our grammarian, Phil Pearson. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Mary. It's an honor to be your counter grammarian tonight. As you may be aware, my role is multiple. I will be looking for those crutch words that seem to work their way into our language, interrupt our speaking, and really don't add those ahs and ums, pregnant pauses that don't add to the speech. And I will report on those. I will also look for really colorful words and phrases that are uncanny in their ability to expand the meeting, the speech, and really highlight important items. My third role is to introduce the word of the day, which is in fact uncanny. It's an adjective that means to have a supernatural character or origin, eerie, mysterious, or it could mean being beyond what is normal or expected, perhaps suggesting superhuman or supernatural powers, as in an uncanny sense of direction. I'll be looking for those uses of the word of the day, and at the end I will report back to our general evaluator and the rest of you as well. Madam Toastmaster.
Terrific. Thank you, Phil. I love your explanation. I have one more role to introduce before we get to the speakers. Isn't timing everything in humor? I've heard that phrase before. And storytelling. The way you pace yourself, everything about storytelling and humor depends on good timing. Well, at Toastmasters, we know how important it is to time ourselves. Joanna, what will people see tonight?
Good evening, Mary, and our fellow Toastmasters and our guests that have joined us this evening. For our timing, we have Kyle Hall, Carrie Dugan, Karen McNamara, Amy Bartholomew, and Rebecca Murray with 4 to 6 minute speeches prepared. At the 4-minute mark, they will see the green card posted. At the 5-minute mark, they will see the yellow card posted. And at the 6-minute mark, they will see the red card posted. They have a 30-second grace period, but the red will remain until the end of your speech. We have an 8 to 10-minute segment with Lee Amantangelo. Lee, your timing cards will show green at 8 minutes, yellow at 9 minutes, and red at 10 minutes. Again, you have a 30-second grace period, and the red will remain until the completion of your speech. Mary Morrison has a special segment for us, and that segment will be broken down by 10 minutes with the green card, 12 minutes with the yellow card, and at 15 minutes with the red card. Madam Toastmaster, I hope I've not missed any of the segments for our timing. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Joanna. So people will all be paying attention to what their timing is tonight as they're speaking. That helps us get everyone have a chance to speak in a relaxed way, and the audience not to have to worry about that we're on track and paying all attention to, they're paying attention to what the speaker is saying and not to how long the speaker is speaking. Was there one? Oh, I did want to note that Kyle has placed, I think it was Kyle. Kyle has placed the agenda in our chat room. So if you wanted to open that up, you have access to see what the agenda actually is. There you go. Ready for our speaker number one. Long ago, in a district far, far away, our first speaker went all the way to the District Humor Championship, riding on tonight's first humor hack, giving a tool for creating laughter and sharing with us his theories of juxtaposition and endless source of humor. Please help me welcome Kyle Hall. Kyle.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Lab Storymasters, for inviting me to speak. When I was getting ready for this meeting tonight, I put on a shirt, and my wife looked at me and said, "You gonna wear that shirt?" Now, some of you may have thought that my wife was asking me a question. She wasn't. She was giving me a command. She was telling me to change my shirt and to change my shirt into a shirt she would not be embarrassed for me to be seen in. This shirt. Now, some of you might be wondering, how does he know that? How does he know that what his wife asked was in reality a command? Well, you see, ladies and gentlemen, my marriage came with a secret decoder ring that helps me understand the strange and mysterious language we call wife speak. What I just did for you there was the opening segments of a humor speech I wrote back in District 2 called My Secret Decoder Ring. And it grew, the speech grew out of my life. And let me tell you right now, because it always comes up, is your wife mad at you when you tell this speech? No, I went over all this material with her before I ever stood up and spoke, and she went, "Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that." And we joked about it. And of course, you're not going to get to hear the rest of the speech, where I also make fun of husband speak and how husbands don't always say what they mean. But this whole speech grew out of one event when my wife did say, "You gonna wear that shirt?" And I called her on the fact that she wasn't really asking me a question. She was telling me to change my shirt. And that's an example of juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is when you take two things and put them side by side so you can compare them. And that is a great source of humor if you do it right. Now, that whole speech, my secret decoder ring speech, is built around the juxtaposition of what is said versus what is meant. And I have multiple examples of when my wife says this, but she means that. And also when I said this, when I meant that. One of the popular ones that comes up in our marriage is, we need to do the dishes. And then when we realized we said that, we followed up with, and by we, I mean you. So just juxtaposition. What did you say? What did you mean? That's one thing. Now, there's also, you can do juxtaposition in a number of different ways, but I'm going to talk about three. I already talked about what you said versus what you meant. Then there's what you say versus what you do. Hey, Hall, I'm gonna beat you up. Yeah, you're gonna beat me up? Yeah, I'm gonna beat you up. What are you gonna do about it? Well, I'm gonna run away. That's me as a fifth grader or so, not wanting to fight, running away, putting up a brave front for as long as I could, and then fleeing. So juxtaposition. What did you say versus what you did? Then there's, and this is, I think, one of the richest farms where I seek for humor. What did you do versus what were you thinking about doing? Because when you start farming into what you wished you could have done versus what society will let you do, there's a lot of sense of humor there. I was working for a company as a technical guy, and they didn't need my technical skills anymore. The problem they hired me to solve, I solved. And they were wondering what to do with me. Well, my friend Joe, who was a salesman there, he said, "Hey, Kyle, we have a project that needs a project manager. Would you like to try your hand at that? You do that Toastmastery leadership stuff, don't you? Would you like to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I do that Toastmastery leadership stuff. Yeah, I'll try it." So we went in and we met the client. Now the client is sitting at the desk and he's angry. And he's looking at us and he's like, "Joe, this is the third project manager you've brought in here in 8 weeks. If I have a problem, who do I call?" Well, I knew the answer to that. The answer was me. So I went, "You call me." That's what I did on the outside. On the inside, I was strangling Joe for not telling me I was the third project manager in 3 weeks. Joe survived that meeting, luckily for him. And I learned about juxtaposition. I learned what a powerful tool it is for humor. So look for when you say something that you don't mean, or when your spouse does, or your boss, or your child. When you say something that differs from what you actually do, or when you do something that differs from what you'd really like to do. Juxtaposition. It's an endless source of humor. Back to you, Mary.
Kyle, it is uncanny how the same conversations happen at my house with my husband, Chuck. It's like you're living here. Unbelievable. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize how often juxtaposition was happening in my house. We are going to move on to our second speaker tonight, sharing some tips. Where is your funny bone? I was just thinking that, and then I realized I was almost going to point like, where is your funny bone? And I thought it's familiar because it is the speech title Carrie gave me for tonight's speech. Where, when you think of where is your funny bone, Carrie will let us know, hopefully, where to look for it. Carrie is a human-centered researcher and designer who says, data tells you the facts, stories tell you why it matters. Please welcome Carrie Dugan, humor and storytelling hack. Where is your funny bone, Carrie?
Well, I can't promise that this hack will instantly transform you into our president, Philip Pearson, our Toastmaster, Mary Morrison, or Jerry Seinfeld. But it could help you locate your funny bone. Humor isn't one size fits all. Sure, you can develop rules or framework about creating the right setup for a joke or story, but when it comes down to it, humor is subjective. However, it is an essential tool. Humor stretches your skills both as a writer and as a speaker. While you know that humor is a cognitive and emotional experience that often leads to laughter, you may not know why. Why is something funny if it's personal, subjective, or biased? Here are 3 things I've learned and have experienced. 1, humor happens by looking at situations from every angle. Here you can find many twists, surprises, and a relief to a funny or serious subject. It could be the words or the setup. Number 2, when you hear a humorous joke or story, figure out what resonates with you. Number 3, don't try to be funny for an audience. Try to make yourself laugh first. To use humor effectively, you must understand what the listener understands. It's incredibly easy to find your funny bone through improvisation, just by being in unusual and uncanny circumstances. Using humor in this form almost magically reveals the personality of the characters in your story, creating a strong relationship bond between your scene partner and the audience. One of my improv classes, I spontaneously told a modern day story of an old fairy tale, Old Mother Hubbard. I couldn't remember why I went to the cupboard, but upon reaching it, I realized the dog was hungry again. I stood there in despair. How could the cupboard be bare again? I never have enough money. My scene partner's job was to tell my backstory. Old Mother Hubbard always gives her money away to every solicitor who comes to the door. That batty old woman wonders why she's always broke. So she's always so broke, she feeds her poor dog funny bones because the cupboard is always bare. The poor animal becomes her emotional support dog for humor. Funny things are everywhere, Dr. Seuss said. If you live a funny life, you know where and how to look for humor. Train your funny bone to see the world in a different way and make yourself smile and laugh every day. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for those tips. I love the idea of retelling the Mother Hubbard story or any old story that you've heard in a new way. Fabulous. Appreciate that. I would also encourage everyone, I've seen some things in the chat tonight, and I love the kind of feedback. I know our speakers would really appreciate getting some feedback also. So if you feel so inclined, let the comments roll. It adds to the humor of the evening. Going forward for our third speaker, we are just whizzing our way through tonight's agenda, is Karen McNamara. Karen is a distinguished Toastmaster, member of Toastmasters International since 2005. She joined Toastmasters to enhance a leadership development program she was leading for her own organization, and she found it offered both speaking and leadership pathways. Learning there is something in Toastmasters for everyone, regardless of leadership and speaking skills, she remains active. Currently, she is working on incorporating more humor in her speeches and is thrilled to be a member of this fun club, the perfect platform for growing while laughing. Please join me in welcoming Karen McNamara with the power of 3. Karen.
Growing up, I always liked the number 3. I felt it was my special number, and it brought me uncanny luck. When asked to pick a number, you guessed it, I always picked 3, but never really knew why. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, Did you know that there is a secret power in the number 3? I began my research. 3 is used in speech, religion, culture, story, slogans, humor. If you think about language, we speak in the first person, the second person, the third person, or the past, the present, the future, subject, verb, object. You see, we can remember 3 because it's the simplest pattern. When we get more in a sequence, it's harder to remember. When we think about a speech, we think about an opening, a body, a conclusion, or we might think of it as an intro, a conflict, and a solution. Think about some of our famous speeches. How about President Lincoln? Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Or Julius Caesar. I can, I saw, I conquered. Or the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Or how about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness from the Declaration of our Independence? Do you see where I'm going with this? We remember things in 3s. And how about the story? There's the beginning hook, the middle build to suspense, and the end payoff. And it goes way back. How about as we grew up? There were the 3 pigs, the 3 blind mice, Goldilocks, and how many bear? Yep, 3 bear, 3 stooges, 3 wise men, 3 musketeer. And how many spirits visited Scrooge? You got it, 3, past, present, and future. And our favorite monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And how about slogans or taglines? Truth, justice, and what? The American way. Or just do it. Who is it? We all know, Nike. Breakfast of Champions, Wheaties. The quicker picker upper. We all know it as Bounty. Taste the rainbow, Skittles. Or Snap, Crackle, Pop, Rice Krispies. Or I want some of that finger licking good Kentucky Fried Chicken. In religion, there's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, 3 wise men, 3 kings, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And finally, let's talk about humor. Humor goes way back, and if you go back to the beginning comedians, they often refer to it as the rule of 3, where there's 2 expected elements and a third that derails into the unexpected. And the third is the most important and the one that's remembered. And the reason it's remembered is because it's different, it's unexpected. So there's a pause for impact or a pause for laughter. So some examples. The way to get it done, do it yourself. Have someone else do it. Or tell your children not to do it. See the humor there? It's not expected, and we're doing the opposite of what we might have expected. For some of you might be familiar with that. I don't know whether it's pronounced tuk-tuk or tuk-tuk, but it's an auto rickshaw. One might say, it turns to the left, or it turns to the right, or it turns over. You see the difference. And there's a Toastmaster named Andrew Glugan who was speaking to a prospective group of Toastmasters on why they might just want to join. I'm going to read the statement he said. Strong speaking will earn you money, diamonds, and pearls, dignity, respect, and most importantly, girls. Okay, let's take a look at that. He used the power of 3 twice as well as rhyming. There were 2 sets of 3. The first one was money, diamonds, and pearls. We may not remember that because it's kind of expected. But the second one was about action, dignity, respect, and most importantly, girls. We'll remember that because it rhymes and because it's different and unexpected. So I'll repeat it one more time. Strong speaking will earn you money, diamonds, and pearls, dignity, respect, and most importantly, girls. Let's join Toastmasters, right? And there was another Toastmaster by the name of Chendul Kumar. Some of you may have heard. And he spoke to Toastmasters in Abu Dhabi. The title of his keynote was Stand Up, Speak Up, Shut Up. Okay, that third one was a bit unexpected. But when he spoke, he actually explained it. He said, stand up is about facing your fear. Speaking up is practicing and learning, and shut up before your audience tells you to. So in conclusion, the power of 3 is used widely in speech, language, and humor. It's the simplest pattern for us to remember, practice, and process. My research is done. I can now use 3 to speak articulately to help you remember the message and to snap, crackle, and pop in the morning. Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, that's awesome, Karen. I love it. I think I can build on some humor by thinking about the 2 expected and the third that derails. I'll also know if my audience is listening to me by their reaction. Wonderful. Well, we are in for a treat with also our 4th speaker of the night. Can you believe you've already heard 3 people? Didn't that go by boom, boom, boom? Did you like how I used the power of 3 there? I'm so clever. M.E. Bartholomew says, do you have a fear of failing? Failing at being funny? Sometimes we are our own worst enemies. Emmy shares with us some ways to help us relax and allow our humor to come through as some well-known but often disregarded don'ts. Get your pens ready. We wouldn't want you to be bored. You might need to doodle or something. Here's Emmy Bartholomew with Get Out of Your Way. Emmy.
I never could tell a joke. Jokes are beyond me. I can't remember the punchlines. I get the activities, whatever it is, I get them all screwed up. Jokes and me are anathema. But I am a fun person. I like to have fun. And I think I'm a funny person. But, you know, fun and funny don't always mean that you're going to be funny for an audience. But they do have an intersection. Finding that intersection is what I needed to do, because I could have fun all the time. But after I practice a speech, I write a speech, I can't find the funny in it. I have to actually experience the funny before I can say it. And sometimes, depending on the topic, I can't make it funny at all. 2 years ago, I was working on my contest speech and I had won the area, and I was back at Pro Speaking, giving my speech for their plethora of evaluators so I could make it more contest worthy. And all of my evaluators told me what a great speech it was and how this was a good contest speech and I did all these things well. They gave me a few things to work on. And then one of them said, the only thing it needs is humor. And I'm going, oh, this is a speech about cancer. how do I add humor? I don't know how to do that. Luckily for me, Joanna Tavera was in the round robin. So I had a part in the speech where I said that they took out 10 feet of my colon. Actually, it was only 10 inches, but it felt like 10 feet. Joanna said, you know, when you got to that part about taking out your colon, I thought for sure you should have gone like this. They took out 10 feet of my colon. And I thought, oh, that's great. So I went back and I reworked the speech and it came out like this. They took out 10 feet of my colon. Oh, okay. They only took out 10 inches, but it felt like 10 feet. So what it did was lighten up the whole speech. Instead of dragging people down, they found out, oh, okay, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to get lighthearted about this. Obviously, I didn't die. I'm here. But what that taught me was the value of exaggeration. And I do exaggeration very well. I found that out. For instance, let's say I want to give a speech about my father teaching me to fish when I was 10. And I'm telling you about it, and I say, I caught a fish. It was this big. All right. It was this big, but I didn't think you'd believe me. Okay, so that has the exaggeration, but it also has the unexpected. So it's almost like the 3. I didn't quite have 3 in there, but it still works. I needed to find out what worked for me. So that's one of the things that works for me. Another thing that works for me is self-deprecating humor. You know, when you say something about yourself that's not too, shall we say, aggrandizing. So the other day, I realized that I put on all this weight over COVID. And the thing is that my image of myself is still the same. I still think I'm slender and beautiful. But then the other day, it was kind of uncanny. I was walking along and something was following me. Oh my God, it's my butt. Okay, well, that works. I can tell that about myself, but I can't tell a joke like that about anyone else. As much as it might be funny, it's not kind. So you don't want to tell jokes about other people that are disparaging. I also steer away from sexual jokes because I don't enjoy them myself, so I don't want to put that on anyone else. So I try to keep the humor clean and fun, and I have to enjoy myself while doing it. If I'm not having fun, it doesn't come across to other people as funny. Then the other thing that I've learned is to keep a story collection. I have a collection of all the stories that I tell, but I don't necessarily have humor in them. My suggestion to you is if you have a collection of stories, what you can do is take those stories at any time when you're going to make a speech and figure out which stories work for that speech. If you want them to be funny, take your stories to your club. Your club is great. Do a speech that's 3 different stories and say to your VPE, I want a round robin because I want everybody to tell me how to make these funny. And then they'll help you. They're the greatest. But what they also help you do is get out of your own way to learn what works for you and then relax into it and enjoy it. That's my suggestion to you today. So get out of your way, Madam Toastmaster.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. If I could think pretty quickly on my feet, I was once telling this true story of how I was in a bathroom stall, and the door flew open on me. And I took a deep breath. And as I was telling the story, I was like both embarrassed, but what for? I wasn't the one who slammed the door open on me. And it happened so quickly. And when I was telling the story to somebody who actually did have a sense of humor, he said, if you want that to be funny, say by the time I finally had the courage to look up, I looked from his shoes up and realized I was in the wrong bathroom. He said it much funnier than I did, and it wasn't actually a true part, but it did make it funny. It was a little bit unexpected. So I like that. I have to get out of my own way. Thank you so much. I'm getting lots of good tips tonight. Who knows, next time I might actually be able to give a funny speech sometime if I have lots of good coaching. Well, we're in for another treat. Magic number 5 is our Vice President of Education for this club, Rebecca P. Murray. In this speech about an uncanny kitty, our speaker invites you to keep track of the dialogue and count how many times she infuses it into her speech to support the story and uncover the humor. And yes, kitty dialogue does count. Now, sharing Kitties for Heaven, infuse more dialogue to uncover more humor. Please welcome Rebecca P. Murray.
What's that? It sounds like a cat. This sound, meow, 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 at 4:30 in the morning, coming from outside our bedroom door. Martin heard it too. He jumped off the bed and started spinning in circles. And just to be clear, Martin's my dog, not my husband. I got up, let Martin out. He ran off like a shot. I knew I needed to follow, so I grabbed my robe, ran out in my bare feet. It was a beautiful morning. The sun hadn't risen yet, cool grass underneath my feet. I couldn't see Martin anywhere. Martin! He must have ran the thing off into the woods. And in the silence of that morning, meow, meow, meow. I heard it again. I turned around to follow the sound. It led me to the north edge of our house. When I looked down, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a teeny tiny, uncanny kitten from heaven. A kitten from heaven, that's the only thing that I could surmise, because we live on 20 acres out in the middle of nowhere. To get to our house from our driveway is quite a trek. To get to our driveway from the main road, another trek. Neighbors are acres away, and there is a 7-week-old kitten. I picked up the little kitten from heaven. It started purring the instant I did. I brought it inside, found a saucer with milk, stood there watching in amazement. Martin came in. What is that? He'd never seen a kitten before. Maybe a squeaky toy, maybe something to eat. He was totally confused. My husband and our 12-year-old golden retriever then emerged from the bedroom. My husband walked, pointed, as only a cat hater can. What is that? It's a kitty from heaven. Well, I actually didn't say from heaven. I said, honey, listen, I'll find out where this kitty belongs, who it belongs to, and if I don't, I promise I'll take it to the Humane Society before you get home. Maybe. Have a nice day, dear. Once my husband left the house, I knew I had to reach out to my neighborhood group on Facebook. Does this cat belong to anyone? Well, it was 5 in the morning. I didn't expect anyone to answer right away. I then posted its picture on different animal groups, those kind that are always trying to rescue animals, and then also to my Facebook peeps. Immediately, the comments, suggestions started pouring in. I said, this cat just finished a little meal. What do I do next? Get her litter box. These group of people helped me so much with this cat throughout the day and put on a campaign, hashtag keep the kitty, to put pressure on me to keep this cat. Well, I was warming up to the idea and I decided I will just, put it on hold until my husband got home. And when he did, it was clear as day. He sat down in his armchair while I'm fixing dinner, and this was what I heard from him. Why is she doing that? What's she doing now? Where is she going? She's clawing up the couch. She's going to destroy the house. And then I knew I could not keep my kitty from heaven. And you're not going to believe what happened next. My phone rang. Hello? It was Matt Forrest. Matt Forrest, who lives in Davis, California. Matt and I were leads in our junior high school production of The Ballad of Bron Michael. That's how we met. Now, The Ballad of Bron Michael, you probably never heard of it. It's sort of like Brigadoon, but a lot worse. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Fine, Rebecca. Hey, I just wanted to check in on you. I know you're having your surgery tomorrow. See, I had breast cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer last fall. I had my first surgery right before Christmas. And then that next day, early in the morning, I was having my second surgery. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Okay, now I'm getting confused which side. Anyway, this is Matt right here. This is what he says. Hey, Rebecca, listen, I just got off the phone with my son, Micah, who lives in Bothell. He says it's just an hour south of you. I said that you found this kitten. You see, he just left the vet and they had to put down their precious cat that they've had for 10 years because of kidney failure. He is a mess. He is sobbing on the phone. And well, I was wondering, are you looking to adopt out that little kitten? I looked at my husband's cat face, remember? Yes, I'd love for them to have the kitten. Great, I'll put Micah in touch with you and you guys can work out the details. We hung up. The next thing I knew, I was in touch with Micah, who agreed to come on Saturday. That was the day after my surgery, to pick up the little princess, our kitty from heaven. That next morning, very early, my husband drove me to the hospital. I secured the kitty in a dog crate with a little litter box and a bit of food and water. When I woke up from that surgery in the recovery room, there were two things that went through my mind. First, thank God I'm alive. And second, Kitty, must get home to Kitty. They took out the IV, I put on my clothes, and I was so excited to leave. I stood out in the hallway. I'm ready to go. Ma'am, you can't just walk out of here. We have to check you out and discharge you and then walk you to the door. Okay, well, let's get a move on, shall we? I got home and picked up my little precious kitty from heaven. We have 24 hours left. I'm going to savor every single moment of it. And I did. And the next day, when the perfect cat parents came to pick up their precocious little princess, I knew that that was a match made in heaven. And as they drove away, my heart was full, thinking that I had been a conduit for love, happiness, and healing. Now, the only thing I'm left with, and this seriously has become a condition, is PSKS. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's post-surprise kitty syndrome. I find myself like looking out the window and listening. When will the next kitty from heaven come to me? Lightning can strike twice, you know. And if another uncanny kitty ends up with me, this time I'm going to keep her. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, that's fabulous. I loved, Rebecca, how you took this kind of not ordinary circumstance, but this circumstance that wouldn't particularly stand out in, say, the context of your life, and made it turned it into something so memorable that was the second thing you thought of after surgery. My little kitty. Thank you. I got a little tired writing tracking all the dialogue pieces. It was chock full of it. I'm hoping others also were paying a lot of attention, because we're going to have a little pop quiz. Just if you write in the chat, if you were tracking, how many different dialogues did you see or hear during that speech? Little chat. See if you can beat me. See who has the highest number and wins the prize. I'll let you know the prize after break.
Maybe it's a kitty prize.
Maybe it's a kitty prize. 27, not 27, 7 and 20. I had, anybody else? 1 million. Lee, maybe you misheard or misunderstood what I meant by whoever had the highest number gets the prize. Or, I don't know, Lee, it may be deserving of the prize that I'm thinking of. I showed 12, but I was so engaged in part of it, I'm sure I missed some. 3 times 3 plus 3, the power of 3. Thank you, thank you. There you go. Is that wheeze?
Wheeze.
Yes,
Wheeze.
Thank you. Thank you, wheeze. All right, Toastmasters, we come to this moment where we have a little bit of a break. I'll explain a little bit about what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes or so. We have another speaker. We have our final speaker. Speech is a little bit longer, 8 to 10 minutes, as you heard from Joanna, our timer. And what I'm hoping happens here is, this is my plan. I'll just say, but you're the ones who are implementing this plan. So I really hoping it works. As you listen to Lee, he is probably going to incorporate a lot of the different tips that you have heard tonight. So when we come back from hearing Lee, I want you to just be thinking as you're listening to him. I mean, be fully engaged, but maybe you notice, oh, look at that, oh, look at that, look at that. So that when we come back and do our little takeaways, you'll say, hey, I heard this, and I heard this, and this was. So that's kind of my general direction, and I'll get a little more into it after we've heard from Lee, who's going to talk to us about marriage and children. Can you imagine something many of us have experienced? At one point, we've all experienced children because we were one ourselves. Now, Lee is our club treasurer. I do have a request for reimbursement out to Lee, so I do want you to be kind to him. And he is burnt out from that officer role and a little bit on the brink, because we don't know what's going to happen tonight. Let's give him our empathy and our ears with his 8 to 10 minute speech, Marriage and Children. Lee Amantangelo.
If you would have seen me 10 years ago, you would have seen a man on the brink of getting married, and I didn't know why, except my girlfriend told me so. Hey, now don't get me wrong, I wear the pants in this relationship. She told me that too. You can tell my girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, was uncanny. I should have been prepared for marriage by observing my 2 longtime roommates who were married. Their names were Mom and Dad. Have you ever wondered why some couples got married? Yeah, that's what I thought about my parents. I have come to the conclusion that marriage is not just a word. It's a sentence. I can usually tell if a couple in public is married because they're usually yelling at the same children. Yeah, married people will tell you marriage is a learning experience. Well, at least for the man. For the woman, it's more of a teaching experience. When entering into marriage, it's best that a man doesn't know much at all. Actually, it's best if he doesn't know anything. The wife is just going to retrain him anyways. Might as well start with a fresh piece of clay. And whatever you do, gentlemen, don't interrupt your wife. Am I right, ladies? Do not interrupt your wife. She's just going to go back to the beginning and start all over again anyway. But all kidding aside, marriage is serious business. Let me say that again. Serious business, with an emphasis on the word business. That's right. Married people in the audience, they know what I'm talking about. Unmarried people in the audience who were married really know what I'm talking about. But as Toastmasters, we know this. The key to a successful marriage is communication. As an advanced Toastmaster, I appreciate that, and I further maintain the less communication, the better. The less communication, the less chance for misunderstanding. And the last thing we want is misunderstanding in business. But all kidding aside, as a matter of fact, there are really only 3 words that a man needs to know when he gets married. Oh, right. Sorry. Weren't you going to cut the grass today? Oh, right. Sorry. I will do that right now. We have to leave right now. Oh, sorry. Right. I will cut it tomorrow morning. Aren't you going to take me to church tomorrow morning? Oh, right, Mrs. Nagalot. What was that? Sorry. Man, that reminds me. The less communication, the better. So remember that golden rule. And if you can't remember the golden rule, remember those immortal words spoken by Julius Caesar as he entered the bedchamber of Cleopatra. I didn't come here to talk. Once the married couple figures it all out, that art of communication, children are soon to enter into the mix, and a whole new form of communication comes with them. The pre-10-year-old child likes to speak in 2-word phrases. Shut up, hurry up, wait up. Parents will find it that they can counter those 2 words with a retort of their own that's only 2 words. Slow down, get down, calm down. Why is it that children, everything to them is up, and everything to parents is down? But hey, wait till those children get to their teenage years. Their vocabulary increases. They now speak in 3-word bursts. And you can counter them with your own 3-word bursts. Comb your hair, brush your teeth, mow the lawn, do the dishes, do your homework, go to bed, turn that down, turn that off. Don't talk back. I hate you. But children have it much different now than when I was a kid. With all their channels on their TV and all their apps on their devices. When I was a kid, we were physical. We were outside playing sports and cowboys and Indians and building forts. Today, kids look at their little 2-dimensional screen and everything is virtual to them. When I was different at the beginning of every school year, I'd go up to my father and I'd say, Dad, can we go shopping to get some new clothes? And my father would always reply, when I was your age, to go to school, I had to walk long distances involving increasing elevation during inclement weather. And then he'd continue on. When I was your age, I only got to wear hand-me-downs to go to school. That story always confused me because my father only had 3 older sisters. But today, kids have it so much better with all their gadgets. When I was growing up in my family's household, my father was so cheap we had 2 modern conveniences. A black and white TV with rabbit ears all the way across the room sitting on a TV tray. And then his coveted prized possession, an electric floor heater. It had two settings, low and high. When you plugged that thing in, it was already on. Oh, you won't believe the night that that electric floor heater broke. Oh, the blood rushed from my father's face as if he lost his best friend. He looked so consternated. The very next morning, he got up early and went to the appliance store and bought the new fangled state-of-the-art electric floor heater. He was so proud coming in the door with that thing. It had 4 settings: low, medium, high, and off. A few weeks later, I was watching my nieces while my brother and his wife went out for their anniversary. I noticed one of my nieces was missing. I asked the younger one, I said, "Where's your sister?" "Oh, she's in the bathroom talking on her cell phone to her BFF." All of a sudden, I began to channel my father. "When I was your age, I had to pick one room or the other." She finally came out of the bathroom. I said, "Okay, we're going to watch some TV." And in unison, they both said, "We can't, Uncle Lee. The TV is broken." That statement gravely concerned me as a babysitter because that TV was my babysitter. "What do you mean the TV's broken? Let me see that remote." "The batteries are dead. Get me some batteries." At that very moment, I began to channel my father. "When I was your age, I had to walk all the way across the room to change the dial. And that dial didn't have 256 channels on it. It had a U and a 2 through 13. And let me tell you, not all those numbers were a station." And then I began to channel him a little bit more. "You know who really had it bad? My dad, your grandfather. Just to go to school, he had to walk 5 miles up a hill in the snow. And there was a high probability he was wearing a dress." My fellow Toastmasters, after all the kids in my family left the house, my mom stopped smoking. She stopped drinking. You can just imagine how tough that must have been for my father. Yes, last time I spoke to him, he said, "I don't know if I can take this. Your mother talks all the time. She's always nagging." It got so bad, he told me he went to the doctor. And he tells the doctor his story, and the doctor says, "Hey, I don't usually give sleeping pills, but you look like you haven't slept for weeks. Jump up on this scale. We got to do this weight-based narcotic." And my father says, "Oh, Doc, I think you misunderstood me. Those pills aren't for me. They're for my wife." Well, I'm still learning about marriage from my parents and everybody else I see, like the Peppers. And let me just say this: marriage and children, they're not just words, they're speeches. Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Lee. Oh my gosh. We will have a chance to think a little bit more about what we've heard tonight from all of our speakers in this next section. So I'm just going to quickly summarize what I've heard from varied speakers. We had Kyle talking to us about juxtaposition, which can be a kind of a comparison side by side, saying one thing, doing another, what was said versus what was meant. Carrie sharing with us the look at all the angles. If you want to add humor, look at all the angles. Look at it from the twists and turns of any story and figure out what resonates with you, and then make yourself laugh first. And because if you understand what you're saying, the audience will understand what you're saying. Power of 3 from Karen, especially to add humor to your story, is to do the 2 expected and 3 derails. At the third point derails you. 2 unexpected points, and the third point derails you. From Emmy, we had quite a few, actually, that I counted. Emmy did some physical humor. She did some exaggeration. She talked about self-deprecating humor, keeping a story collection, getting feedback on what makes something funny, and enjoy yourself. And we had from Rebecca the skillful use of dialogue, where she was by turns her husband, her dog, the cat, the kitty from heaven, her friend that she went to high school with and was in a bad drama with, the people at the hospital, and multiple friends who kind of tried to shame her into keeping a cat. Wasn't going to work out for her and her marriage long term. And then Lee, oh my gosh, I think, well, this is where I'd like your participation too, in both, like, what's a takeaway from you? What did you hear Lee use tonight as part of his speech? And what's your takeaway that you might want to add to your own storytelling humor and a bonus? If there is a humor hack we've missed, not that you can give a speech on it, but you can just name a humor, a type of humor that you might use, or a way that you use humor in your storytelling. So this is where I'd love, love, love to hear from, especially from some of our guests or club members we haven't heard from yet. Let me unpin myself and see who is unmuting and would like to share. I see Kyle's hand raised. Yes, Kyle.
So I want to mention two things that Lee did. Of course, I have to mention the juxtaposition. And he was saying, I wear the pants in the family. My wife told me that. So, that's juxtaposition of what you say versus what you mean, or what you say versus what reality is. So that's juxtaposition. Well done. The other thing I want to comment on is he did something funny, and then he referenced it later. It's called a callback. And you have to do something funny first, and then you can reference it later. And it takes the earlier humor and amplifies it. So he mentioned that his father, I always had hand-me-downs, and he only had 3 older sisters. So you implied he might have been wearing a dress. And then later on, he did the walking to school 5 miles, and the odds are he was wearing a dress. That's a callback. Well done.
All right, excellent. I see Sherry has her hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I got so many good ideas from all of our speakers, but I really wanted to comment on Karen's speech and the power of 3s. I have often told, when I'm evaluating, I have recommended that people, if they're going with 2 or 4, that they go with 3. And I say, because there's these different reasons, and I might mention a couple, but I couldn't believe the whole speech that she was able to give and all the examples that she came up with about what is the power of 3. And I just am going to really delve into that a lot more. But thank you for all of our speakers. They were just great.
All right, wonderful. Who else would like to? Rebecca.
Yeah, I have a question for Lee. So Lee, you gave us a very well-crafted and honed, practiced and perfected. I mean, it could be on a stage. Can you give us an idea of how, when this idea came to you, and how long you've worked on it to kind of get it to the point where that it is now? In it's well baked. I mean, it's really, really good. Oh, and you're muted. She told me to say that.
I think Kyle touched on this too, right? Where you take a speech and you hone it over time. I think I wrote this speech over 10 years ago, but most of what you see was written over the time when I hear something has to apply to marriage or children, I'll throw that in too. So it's something that I teach when I'm teaching people how to do speech. I always continue to hone your speeches.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just get better and better.
So so let me ask it. So because this is sort of like a clinic in a way, do you have a folder just for that speech? Like, it's that kind of a speech that you want to keep going back to it and perfect it. So you create a folder. What is your system? What system do you have? And how many of these types of well-honed speeches do you have in your arsenal?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In terms of the folder, I have just one folder. And when I'm out in public and I hear people, I'm standing in line at the supermarket and people are having a conversation that's funny, I'll write that down. Or if there's a conversation, I'm thinking there's a better retort in there than what I heard, I'll write that down. So I have a folder of just all these things. And when it comes time to like writing a humor speech, when I first joined Toastmasters, that blank piece of paper was the scariest thing when it came to write a humor speech. I could write all other speeches, but that one's like, how do you write something funny? And so you go into your folder, go, oh, I got a bunch of stuff about marriage and children, right? I've done other speeches where I had a bunch of stuff about baseball. So there's that's why I tell people to keep that notebook. But in terms of the speech, I kind of remember the speeches and I just start off at the beginning and it kind of starts to flow for me. And then I'll just add stuff over time if it's something I wrote a while ago.
That's very funny. Thank you.
Love that question. Thank you so much, Rebecca, because it even gave me another tip about what to do to keep adding to my attempts at
Amy has a
humor.
question.
Yeah, Amy, yes.
Thank you, Lee, for reminding my husband to mow the lawn.
That's right.
He always uses the rain as an excuse. But I really liked your "oh right, sorry," and that how you repeated that over and over and over again, and it got funnier with each repetition.
Well, Wes now has a new vocabulary of 3, so.
Oh, right. Sorry.
His is like, oh, I forgot. Oh.
That's great. All right. Any other comments? What humor you noticed? What your takeaway is going to be? What you appreciated? Yes, Colin.
There's one thing that was mentioned, and I was just wondering, like when you do a humorous speech contest, and you're doing the joke, and then by the time you do it the 4th time, it's not funny to you anymore. How do you keep it funny? I didn't get an answer to that. Is there anybody that could respond to that?
I'll respond to that one. When you have something funny in your speech, that's one of the nuggets you're getting to. You know the audience is going to laugh. And that's really cool when that happens. So it's not like you're trying to entertain yourself anymore, because I'm pretty much bored with my speeches. I'm just doing from milestone to milestone, whether it's an international speech or whatever, and there's different parts I want to get to where I know there's going to be an audience response. And sometimes I'll be writing a line to a humor speech on the day of a contest, and for some reason I'm thinking this is going to be funny. And you put it in the speech, when the audience laughs at that point, you go, wow, I do have my finger on the pulse of an audience. So it's not, after a while, it's just a matter of you're going to get a laugh at that point. That's why these stand-up comedians can do their stuff without laughing on stage. I mean, they know the stuff frontwards and backwards, and they know they're going to get a response.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kyle.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
When you're crafting a speech, especially a humorous speech, you've got laughter points that you're expecting, and you're tweaking them. You're changing the text a little bit and delivering it a little differently, and you get used to the fact that the audience is going to laugh at this point. You expect it, you look forward to it, you hope it's a good laugh. What really is disturbing or distracting is every once in a while you'll come to an audience that doesn't laugh where you expect them to, or does laugh where nobody else has ever laughed before. That can really derail you because you're busy trying to make the speech great, and suddenly the audience isn't laughing, and you have to keep going with the speech. But what you really want to do is go, hey, what was wrong with that? Can I tell it again? Maybe, but you have to keep going. So it's those unexpected things where they don't laugh where you expect them to, or they laugh where no one else has ever laughed before, that can really derail you.
Yes, Emmy.
Well, Lee had another thing that I really enjoyed was a different callback where he said in the beginning that, you know, these, I can't even remember what he was referring to now. It might have been love and marriage or children and marriage and children or whatever. They're not just words, they're sentences. And then he came back at the end. They're not just words, they're speeches. And I love that.
That's good. I love the another tip, just lots of tips I've picked up tonight, but one is and it wasn't even part of your speech, Lee, but just having the notebook. Like I just have a whole folder, but honestly, a notebook would be better because I kind of carry it around or have something to write it in, and the folder gets a little unwieldy. And even Rebecca, I loved your idea of having a folder even for each type of speech or the speech that you have. Like if you know you've got a constant theme, one of my themes humor is getting lost. And so I'm always looking for things that are funny about getting lost. Either my experiences or things that people tell me about ways that they've gotten lost.
Yep. That's
good.
what I do. I have folders and they are all labeled. And then when a thought comes in or something that I don't even know sometimes what which one it would pertain to, I just want to capture it, and I capture it and I think that should go in that folder. And then you're like where Lee is, where when you do sit down and you have all these gems that you've curated, most of that you've forgotten completely about. It's a thought that came in, it captured, goes in, then you move on with your day, right? But that's the big thing, is to capture the lightning in the bottle when it happens.
Yeah. Lee.
Yeah, I do want to apologize. I thought my speech was supposed to be teaching people about marriage and children. I wasn't trying to be funny. I apologize.
Nice.
Good. Let's see. Anybody else? We just have a couple minutes left. Especially if somebody we haven't heard from somebody, what one of your takeaways for tonight might be. The way you're going to add humor, or something you picked up about storytelling.
I just want to make a general comment to Rebecca Murray. I just love whenever she speaks. Her face, the way she looks, her gestures, it's just so entertaining to watch her. Her voices, especially when she does all her different characters. But she's just beautiful to look at. I can watch her and edutain all night long.
Aww.
Yes.
I love you too, Lee.
Yes. That's why we're here to beat cancer. We don't want cancer winning ever.
All right. Kyle says he is going to try. Sorry, I missed the comment here. I've got to bring it up, Kyle. It was exaggerating. He's never done that before. And then I just have to share this. Amy did direct message me about Karen and I should do a little go on a road trip, but she would be worried about us that we would get lost and never come back. Actually, that's not what she wrote, but I thought that was funny. Thank you, Amy. Anybody else? I have Sherry.
I just had one quick thing to say, kind of a little shout out to one of our former Toastmasters, Vince Duran. He was in when I started and was kind of my mentor. And Carrie's background reminded me, he was a great storyteller and he won a lot of humorous storytelling contests. And one of the stories he told about was this doctor in this little town, and he'd be telling about how someone would go to the doctor and the doctor would remove something and the dog would be sitting over in the corner and he would toss it over to him and he'd he just clomped on whatever it was he removed. And it was just hilarious when he told the story, but that background just reminded me of Vince, and I just had to give a little shout out to him.
Thank you, Sherry. Memories. I'm going to wrap this portion up. I just wanted to also comment that thank you, Robin, Rosie, and Melanie. Even though we did not hear from you specifically, I certainly hope that you enjoyed the meeting. And if you want to add any comments in the chat room, you're welcome to it. And for all of our guests, well, I'll bring that up later. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Let me call on our general evaluator to wrap up the feedback portion, or lead the feedback portion of our meeting, and that is Amy Pepper. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. It's been a wonderful night of humor. I've learned so much, especially how everybody incorporated it so much. Emmy, I really appreciate you telling us to get out of our own way. And I think that is really an important nugget to take away from tonight. So as far as generally evaluating the whole meeting, it kicked off on time. Elections were done so smoothly. I loved it. Phil, you came very prepared. And I'm sure you'll find your fellow officers to join the team for next year. Again, a shout out to thank those that did volunteer for the leadership roles, to which I am not right now. So I appreciate you. I also want to say thank you to Mary for a very fun night. It ran really well, really streamlined. Everybody had a chance to speak. The speakers all came very well prepared. You could tell that the speeches, I don't believe that anybody gave their speech for the first time tonight. They all seemed that they were experienced pros at humor. And so I will take that away with me, because I've needed a little bit more humor in my life. And that's why I showed up tonight. So I appreciate it. I am going to call on our uncanny grammarian, because I had to get that word in, Phil, to give us the word count of the night. And I have a feeling you're going to give a little bonus points to Kyle because he was even texting it. That's not fair. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Phil, and then I will come back.
Well, thanks very much, Madam Waiter. It's my honor. There we go. To share with you some of my grammarian observations. The two crutch words I picked up on that transcended speakers were and so. They sometimes seem to make it like a run-on sentence with the and so seems to make it in there where it's not really needed. I did pick up on a whole bunch of colorful words and phrases, and I will note each speaker, at least one that really caught my ear. Kyle is the king of new words. I didn't know we had a word called leaderly, but I do now. Thank you for another lexicon, Kyle. And Carrie, I'd never heard of a support dog for humor, but now I have put that into another category of those support animals that can go into the restaurants with you. It's my humor support dog. Karen, the thing that caught me, it came at the end of your speech where you close it with snap, crackle, pop in the morning. Of course, that gives me a call back to my youth and Rice Krispies in the morning. Emmy, something's following you. Oh my God, it's my butt. Now, that did catch me a little bit off guard and made me laugh. Thank you so much for that. Hashtag keep the kitties. That will go on every post from now on. Hashtag keep the kitties. Lee, the thing that got me, or several items in yours, but the one that got me the most was speaking in 3-word bursts. That had special meaning to me because coming from the military, we had 3 round bursts that was our goal with our rifles, the 3 round bursts, and you used the 3 word bursts, and that made me chuckle as well. Great job. Word of the day. I had Mary, Carrie, Karen, Emmy, Rebecca, and Lee, and our very own Amy Pepper, general evaluator, used it. Rebecca took the cake though because she used it twice, an uncanny ability to work it into her speech. Madam General Evaluator.
Well done, Phil. I loved all those phrases too, except I felt like Karen snap, crackle, and pops how I feel some mornings when I wake up. So next we will turn it over to our timer, Joanna Tavera, to let us know how we proceeded tonight and if we stayed on time.
Great, thank you, Amy. We did well on our whole agenda time for each of the segments. Kyle entertained us with his Kyle Speak for 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Carrie Dugan found her funny bone for 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Kara McNamara had the power of 3, and the force multiplier had to be divided here because she gave us a presentation for 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Amy Bartholomew found the intersection of clean, funny, and enjoyable for 6 minutes and 26 seconds. Rebecca Murray gave us that charming story of finding the kitty a home for 7 minutes and 38 seconds. And Lee Amantangelo gave us the business of communication for 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Mary Morrison gave us and led us in the lesson and takeaways for 13 minutes and 31 seconds. And we are on time, ma'am. Back to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Joanna. That was fantastic. And you brought up something really key. I really enjoyed, I should have mentioned this, how Mary did that takeaway section at the end of our meeting. That was so nice to just wrap up the key points of Kyle's, Carrie's, Karen's, Emmy's, Rebecca's, and Lee's speeches, and just remember those takeaways. So I hope to incorporate those. I don't want to talk any further because I don't want to bring down the funny quotient. That would be very uncanny. So I'm going to pass it on to our Madam Toastmaster, Mary Morrison. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate your signing up and serving in that role. I want to give thanks to all of our speakers. I know that some people have thanked them already, and I hope that you still welcome thanks. I do appreciate putting together a fun meeting. It makes it so nice when people step forward into the roles. I really appreciate that about this club as an advanced club. We can have some high expectations of members, and you don't fail. So you said yes, and love that you jumped into the opportunity to speak, or if that wasn't your thing for tonight's meeting, that you jumped into one of the other roles. We used a lot of our members. We heard from a lot of our members tonight. My VP membership hat, for a moment, I'll put that on and say to our guests, we'd love to have you join us. I do love an audience. I mean, I think when we put on it, give a speech, it deserves an audience. And so I love, love, love to have an audience. I love, love, love even more to have members join us. And I would love to have guests. If you are ready, give me a shout out. I mean, you could raise your hand, put something in the chat. Happy to send you an application for the club. We'd love to have you part of it. If it scares you to think about storytelling or humor, then I have an application for you, because this is the best way to conquer that fear, is in this club, where you get a lot of support in finding out where your humor lies and how to be a better storyteller. I will finish that pitch then for membership. You have send me something in the chat. You'll be hearing something from me, just having visited us. So to reinforce, you're welcome to join us at any meeting. We love an audience. We love you being a member even more. Let's see, that is it for me. thanking all of our speakers, thanking all of our members, thanking our audience for being here. It made it fun. And Phil, I'm going to now turn control of this meeting to you.